David Ornstein, speaking on the Athletic FC podcast, said, if Martinelli was to leave, you could see Arsenal bringing in a top left-sided winger. If he's not to leave, I don't think so. He goes on to mention that in the Athletic, they've reported on Rodrigo and Anthony Gordon, but he thinks that that is only if Gabriel Martinelli leaves. He doesn't think that it would be the case that Arsenal would still be in pursuit of those players if Gabriel Martinelli was to stay put. Now, this is really, really interesting because I think myself and a lot of others have been under the impression that Arsenal are looking to bring in a left winger. We've been talking about all sorts of players, Rodrigo, Leao. We've been through lists and lists and lists of potential candidates. The Noni Madueke stuff makes sense in the view of, well, if you did bring in another winger, it's probably on the right-hand side where you're short of another natural one, right? So that makes a bit of sense. But I've always been under the impression that someone could play on both sides would be the right fit and the perfect player to go for. That's why Rodrigo seems great. Left winger by trade, probably does his best work from the left-hand side, but has played the majority of the time for Real Madrid off the right-hand side. So you'd have a confidence, wouldn't you, in a belief that he could do both jobs. That's why he feels like such a good fit. But this comment from David Ornstein is kind of cast into doubt now whether Arsenal have the funds to go and get a Rodrigo or a Rafael Leao, for instance, without moving on somebody like Gabriel Martinelli, who you could expect to get a decent amount of money for. There'll be people screaming back at this and saying, well, why don't we sell Leandro Trossard? Well, Leandro Trossard doesn't have anywhere near the value of Gabriel Martinelli for a number of reasons: age, contract situation, etc., etc. But Leandro Trossard is not mentioned by David Ornstein. It feels like Gabriel Martinelli could be the key. He's the one that could have a big impact on what our transfer plans look like from here on in and between now and the end of the window. So that's one to keep an eye on.